Hey everyone, Karen Cecilia here. Trust you're all good. I want you to answer the question and tell me if you're enjoying the videos. This one is for people who love crime thrillers and police work, mostly crime thrillers and science, pathology. But it's an interesting story and there is history in it. That is why I'm bringing it to you. Please do enjoy it. There is a crime series on Amazon Prime called Scarpetta. It is I think it's a book. It's a book that has been turned into a series. And I've never read anything from Patricia Cornwell, who wrote the book, but I know she's a big bestseller. That much I can tell you because her books often pop up in my book searching habits. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal in the writing industry. Scarpetta, this series about a forensic pathologist named Dr. K. Scarpetta, and it is the series starring Nicole Kidman and Jamie Lee Curtis. We don't know nobody else there, but actually I don't watch the whole thing. I just watch the pilot. I watched the pilot because I came across the story. And when I learned that the story is a book, I go check out the book. And that's when I learned that this series is on Prime. So I went and I watched the pilot, just the first episode. Don't ever go and watch some more of it. Those things are addictive, but I don't know. I may or I may not. But anyway, I want to tell you the story about not only the writer, but the entire thing. So in 1990, a debut crime novel called Postmortem hit the bookshelves. The protagonist in the book was Dr. K. Scarpetta. She's portrayed as a brilliant, no-nonsense forensic pathologist who solved murders by reading the stories that the bodies told, which is what forensic pathologists does, read stories that the bodies told. Yeah. The book became an instant bestseller. Big. I'm telling you. I research it, I look at it. It's a big thing. Critics praise the authenticity of the book, and you can understand why it's a bestseller and why it is authentic because of the new field that it was exploring. Readers couldn't get enough of it. So over the next 3 decades, K. Scarpetta would appear in 29 novels, inspire a television series, the one with Nicole Kidman and Jamie Lee Curtis, and then become one of the most iconic characters in crime fiction. But what most readers never knew was that K. Scarpetta wasn't entirely fictional, that the woman who inspired her was very real. Her name was Dr. Marcella Fierro, and her actual career was even more groundbreaking than the character that she helped create. So let's talk about Dr. Marcella Fierro. Marcella Fierro was born in 1941 in New York, in Buffalo. This was she was born in an era when women doctors were rare and women forensic pathologists were even rarer, non-existent even. The autopsy room back then was considered to be men's territory. It's too gruesome, too technical, too demanding for women. But that didn't stop Marcella Fierro. She graduated cum laude from Deauville College in Buffalo. Then she earned her medical degree from the University of Buffalo in 1966. She was one of only 5 women in a graduating class of 109 medical students. I could pause and make that sink in for a minute. 1966, 5 women in a class of 109 medical students, and she was one of them, graduate from medical school. Medical school in the 1960s wasn't designed for women really, because the hours were brutal, the expectations were higher, and the male professors, of course, questioned whether women had the emotional fortitude for medicine. There they go again. Female students had to prove themselves twice as hard for half of the recognition. Fierro chose one of the most challenging medical specialties, forensic pathology. This wasn't like emergency room drama or surgical theater. This was the morgue, the basement of the hospital, the dark room, the place where the dead waited for someone skilled enough to determine how they died. This is where violence left evidence on bodies, and where science could speak for victims who no longer had voices. By the early 1970s, Marcella was working in Virginia's state medical examiner system. She performed autopsies, she testified in court, she translated medical findings into language prosecutors and juries could understand. In 1975, she became board certified in forensic pathologist, the 9th woman in American history to earn that certification at that time in 1975. 9 women. America was 150 years old in 1975. 9 women. In the entire United States in 1975. That statistic is staggering. But Fierro didn't make a big deal about it. She just kept working. Then something happened. 1984, a young writer named Patricia Cornwell walked into the office of the chief medical examiner in Richmond, Virginia. Cornwell had a background in journalism. She had worked at the Charlotte Observer covering crime, and now she wanted to write novels. But she wanted to write realistic ones. She needed to understand how real forensic investigations worked, so she needed practical experience. So she asked Marcella if she could observe an autopsy. Fierro's response became a legendary one. She said to Patricia Cornwell, "This is not a spectator sport. These are dead people who can't see or speak for themselves. So this is not spectator sport." She said she didn't let people watch autopsies like they were watching a movie because she believed that the dead deserved more respect than that. She said the science was too serious. But also Fierro recognized something in Cornwell's determination because she never stopped. She kept coming. So Dr. Marcella Fierro made Cornwell an offer. She said to her, "Don't observe, participate, become part of the system if you truly want to write about this. Live it." And Patricia Cornwell took the challenge. She became a volunteer police officer because, yes, you can do that in America. And absolutely you can do that in Virginia. Volunteer as a police officer and they'll give you a gun too. She shadowed the homicide detectives. She processed crime scenes. She earned her way into Dr. Fierro's autopsy room, but not as a tourist, as someone who understood the weight of the work, because now she was a volunteer police officer doing the work. Over the next several years, Patricia Cornwell spent countless hours learning from Marcella Fierro, how forensic pathologists examined bodies, how they documented the injuries, how they testified in trials, how they balanced scientific objectivity with the emotional toll of confronting death daily. All of that knowledge would eventually become the foundation for Scarpetta, thus the series. But before she wrote the book Postmortem, before it was published, before Scarpetta existed, Fierro was about to help make history. In 1987, Richmond, Virginia was gripped by terror. Women were being attacked in their homes, raped, strangled, murdered. Yeah. The killer struck seemingly at random. Debbie Dudley Davis in September, Dr. Susan Elizabeth Elams in October, 15-year-old Diane Cho killed in her family's apartment while her parents slept nearby, Susan Tucker in Arlington. The press was having a field day. They called him the Southside Strangler. Panic consumed the entire city. Women installed new locks, neighborhoods organized watch groups, mothers didn't sleep. Community was panicking. Police eventually arrested Timothy Wilson Spencer. But building a case against him was difficult. Much of the evidence was circumstantial. Prosecutors needed something undeniable. At the crime scenes, investigators had collected biological evidence, semen samples preserved from the attacks. At the Virginia Medical Examiner's office, Marcella Fierro and her colleague David K. Wicken believed that they had a revolutionary tool: DNA analysis. The problem? Well, in 1988, DNA evidence was brand new and tested in court. Many people dismissed it as pseudoscience, junk science. Before the trial could proceed, Judge Benjamin Kendrick held a special hearing to determine whether the DNA evidence was even admissible in court. If the judge rejected it, the prosecution's case could collapse, and a serial killer could walk free to go kill again. Fierro and Wicken presented the science to the court. They explained how DNA testing worked, how biological evidence could identify individuals with near certainty. The judge listened, and on July 16, 1988, Timothy Wilson Spencer was convicted of capital murder based on DNA evidence that showed a 1 in 705 million probability that the biological evidence came from anyone else but him. It was the first capital murder conviction in United States history based on DNA evidence. That decision changed criminal justice forever. Spencer was later convicted of additional murders and executed in 1994. The case marked a turning point. DNA wasn't experimental anymore. It was solid proof, and Marcella Fierro had helped make that happen. But despite the groundbreaking work, Dr. Fierro never lost sight of the human element. Every body on her autopsy table represented a person: someone's daughter, someone's mother, someone whose life had been cut short by violence or accident or disease. She once said in an interview, and I quote, "I never went home and felt like I had a 0 day. I might have had some 5s and 4s and many 10s and 9s, but I was never sorry. Never." End of quote. The work was difficult, emotionally exhausting, but it mattered. Every autopsy could provide answers. Every finding could bring justice. In 1994, Dr. Fierro was promoted to Chief Medical Examiner for the Commonwealth of Virginia, the first woman to hold that position. She served for 14 years, overseeing one of the busiest medical examiner systems in the country. She taught at Virginia Commonwealth University. She taught at the University of Virginia and East Carolina University. She consulted for the FBI on cases involving missing and unidentifiable persons and DNA tracking. She served as president of the National Association of Medical Examiners. It was her influence that shaped an entire generation of forensic pathologists. Meanwhile, Patricia Cornwell's career exploded. After years of rejection, she wrote a bestseller, Postmortem, and it became a bestseller in 1990. And that kicked off the Scarpetta novels, and she kept putting them out, 29 books over 3 decades. Millions of copies sold, translated into dozens of languages. A television adaptation became famous, starring famous women. But here's the remarkable part. When Postmortem was published in 1990, there were only 11 board-certified female forensic pathologists in the United States. 11. 9 in 1975, 11 in 1990 when Postmortem was published. By 2025, that number had grown to approximately 350. The profession had transformed. Young women read about Case Scarpetta and thought, yeah, maybe I could go do that. I could become that. They went to medical school. They specialized in forensic pathologists. They entered a field that this woman, Marcella Fierro, had helped open. Marcella retired as Virginia's chief medical examiner in 2008 after more than 35 years examining the dead to serve the living. She stepped away from the autopsy table. But her children have continued her legacy of public service. Patricia Cornwell, in the meantime, keep writing Scarpetta novels. And across America, women who'd been inspired by those books were doing the real work in crime labs and morgues. Today, Marcella Fierro is in her 80s. Most people don't know her name, but they know Case Scarpetta. They know Patricia Cornwell. But the quiet, brilliant woman who made the first DNA murder conviction possible, who mentored a crime writer, who helped transform forensic pathology from an all-male profession into one where women lead, she deserves to be remembered, don't you think? She deserves a big up. Not as someone's inspiration, but, as a groundbreaking scientist that she really was. Some people change the world with noise. Marcella Fierro changed it with precision. One autopsy at a time. Hail the woman. Thank you all for listening. God bless you all. Stay safe, everybody, and keep your children safe.